Well, our old buddy Mark Schlabach is at it again over at ESPN with his post-spring power rankings that he's updated. Update. Georgia's at number one. Uh, sorry about that. Y'all gotta stop me when I do stuff like that. It's really inappropriate. Let's go backwards from 25. Wisconsin at 25. The Kitty Cats 24. Tennessee, San Antonio. Mark. We don't do that sort of stuff around here. Ole Miss at 22. North Carolina at 21, Texas Tech at 22, Tulane at 19, Kansas State at 18, 17, the Beavs, TCU at 16. A lot of guys lost off that team. Oregon at 15, Utah at 14, Notre Dame at 13, UW at 12, Tennessee at 11, Georgia's toughest game of this season, Texas at 10, Texas at 10. Clemson at 9, Penn State at 8, LSU at 7, Alabama at 6, Ohio State at 5, falling 3 spots from number 2, Florida State at 3, moving up from number 4. I skipped the Trojans at 4, Michigan at 2, who was at 3, and then the Dogs at 1. He's got, okay, so a few things here. And Mark, I know Mark's not an idiot. Believe me, he's not some sort of clown. So your top 10 again, backwards, was Texas and then Clemson at 9. He moved Clemson from 15 to 9. Penn State from 6 to 8. LSU at 7. Alabama at 6. Ohio State at 5. And then SC, Florida State, Michigan, and Georgia. I think if you are Georgia and this is your Final Four, you're cool with it. I'm just going to tell you. I mean, like, if that's what's in your way, I think you're good. Like, you should beat USC. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You should beat USC. And then you'd play the winner of Florida State and Michigan, which should be Michigan. But we've been here before. Should be Michigan. Whew, that's a tough one. Like, that doesn't always work. So, um, I don't know. I love these things. I'm curious as to why he did two things. I'm curious as I should get Mark on the podcast on this thing on the podcast. I don't do podcasts. Podcasts are for fancy people. I should ask Mark why he moved Texas from 16 to 10 and why he's got Clemson from 15 to 9. Here's what he said about the Dogs. The two-time defending national champions, the two-time defending national champions will have plenty of new faces on offense after former coordinator Todd Monken left for the NFL and quarterback Seth Quavius Bennett departed. Former Georgia quarterback Mike Bobo takes over the play calling again, and Carson Beck seemed to have the edge over Brock Vandagriff during the spring. The Bulldogs might have their deepest receiver rotation in years with help All-American tight end Brock Bowers. Mizzou transfer Dominic Lovett, Dylan Bell, and Arian Smith had big performances in the spring. True, the offensive line should be very good. Even another round of starters leaving for the NFL. Even with another round of starters leaving for the NFL, Georgia's defense led by edge rusher Mikael Williams, who did not play in the spring. Linebackers Pop Johnson and Pop and Jamon Dumas Johnson, Small Munden, and safety Malachi Starks is overflowing with talent. That is a true statement. If you are wanting to get double dogs, the link is not below. The link below is for the newsletter. If you sign up for the newsletter between now and May 15th, you will be one of 5 people. You could be one of 5 people who, oh no, this is the floor model. It's still okay. Who gets, this is actually a Stetson Bennett signed one. So I should not screw that up. But anyway, you could get this if you sign the newsletter on the 16th. I'll be sending out to the 5 winners double dogs. There are still a few Stetson Bennett signed. Someone got one today, so we're running out of copies. Get that while you can. But the link below is for the newsletter. Sign up for that. I'm going to tell you right now, like, I know Mark is not predicting this, but if this is the Final Four, Georgia's going to be in really good position. They return 6 offensive starters, 7 defensive starters, 1 punter. Everybody else is, the big thing with the Noles is they're returning 16 starters. That's a lot. I mean, just, if we're being honest about it, Bama is only returning 9. We're going to see real quick with LSU and Florida State. I like both those teams coming in this thing and in their relative positions. They should win their respective. I'm not sure I'm going to say Florida State should win their division or their league, but I mean, they kind of should in a way. But, Clemson's going to return 15 guys. So, we'll just see. I don't know. And Mark's even got it in here. He says, "Oh boy, here we go again." He's the one that's got him in the top 10. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I got Texas in my top 10. I will permit Clemson because someone has to be in the top 10. And I'm not sure I would pick Clemson to lose to Washington or Notre Dame, although they did lose to Notre Dame last year. The curious part, we talk about Clemson a lot on here because of my family situation, but the curious thing about Clemson is they're playing a pretty tough schedule. I mean, they got Florida State, they've got North Carolina, and they've got Notre Dame, but they got all those teams at home. And we'll just see what happens there. I don't like anybody outside this top 15 at all. I just do not like them. But if you're Georgia and and you're looking at this thing, you're like, man, if we could just get in this thing with Florida State, Michigan, and SC, no Ohio State, no, Alabama. I mean, those have been the toughest games that Georgia's played lately, like frankly, in the last 3 seasons. So, I mean, I mean, if you got this, if this was what you wound up with, you'd be okay. Now, I will add though that the concern coming out of Tuscaloosa from people who know, was quarterback, and they addressed that. I mean, I think they addressed that. I think he's got Alabama going backwards a little bit, but I think there's a couple things here. Tyler Buchner, I think he could be their starting quarterback. Justice Hayes is really good. This freshman class for Alabama is really good. Justice Hayes, Caleb Downs, both guys from Gwinnett, they are really good players. Justice Hayes is a really good player. So, we'll just see what happens. Freshman running back can be legit. So I don't think I need to explain that to the Georgia fan base. I think the challenge for Alabama is, namely LSU. I don't know that Tennessee gets in the way, but if you're Alabama, you all of a sudden you look around and you've been the standard bearer for so long. Now that's Georgia. They're in your way. You've got LSU in your way. You've got Tennessee in your way. All three of those teams are in his top 11. And listen, I will vouch for Mark Schlabach. I've known Mark for a little bit of time, on and off for 20 years, 20 plus years, unfortunately. Mark's the one that's getting gray, not me. You see this? This ain't gray yet, Mark. Um, I would be concerned if I'm Alabama about what is clustering around me. Now, I'm not ready for the Texas thing, but I don't see how. He leaves it off here with, even with 10 players selected in last week's NFL draft, the Georgia Bulldogs remain number one in the second version of the 2023 way too early top 25, just like a year ago, when the Dogs had to replace a record 15 players chosen in the NFL draft, including 5 first-rounders. Kirby Smart's roster is built to reload, keeping the defending national champions at the top of our list. Michigan, Florida State, SC, and Ohio State round out the top 5 as we're updating the rankings with spring season and the latest transfer portal maneuvering behind us. These are easier for Mark to do now because we have a set time. Like, people who are not on the roster going into as of May 1st, they can't transfer in. That's my understanding of it. That's my reading of it. And someone can correct me if I'm incorrect. I don't think I am, though. I also am not 100% certain. So that's why I'm hedging a little bit. But it's easier to understand where you're really at. I think the one thing about the only team that has not sort of announced or returns their starting quarterback in this top 4 is Georgia. So, I just finished writing something about Carson Beck, and I'm going to make an announcement about that sometime soon. But that's the only thing, right? I mean, that's the only thing. Like, if you're looking to I think the young people call it fade the Dogs, then that's one thing for sure. I think the problem is that a lot of people around the program are pretty confident that Carson Beck is a really good quarterback, which he is. And I think that's, Greg McElroy said they're not going to skip a beat. I think Aaron Murray talking with Carson private, not privately. I did not mean that because I certainly have not talked about what they talked about privately with Aaron. But I think there's growing consensus that you know this was a quarterback competition, but it was a quarterback competition that Carson Beck should win, and he probably did. Now we're going to see. Okay, we got some practices to go, and you have two gimme games to go as well. So we'll just see what happens. But I don't know. I think Mark's right coming out of this thing. I think he's right at the top 10. I mean, I just Texas. I got to see it.